engages with this. The State Department in 1977 sets up a Secretary for Human Rights. And you'll see here also her willingness to engage with this group, this Elliott Abrams, both in places when he will help her, when he's opposing human rights violations in Eastern Europe, and where he won't help her, in Turkey, in Latin America. But so it's not she's always a success, and you get in her willingness to say, look, we have to engage the U.S. government on these human rights issues. And to some extent, successfully. So I point out, for example, her efforts to get Elliott Abrams speak to the Turkish government about people imprisoned in Turkey. She talks about this on page 222 and 223. Elliott Abrams was furious at me for what he's described my ad hominem, the personal attack. Elliott wouldn't take my calls anymore. A member of his staff told me the grace period I enjoyed with Abrams because of my work in Eastern Europe and the very real help he'd been to me in helping cases in Hungary and Romania came to an abrupt end. But I continued my work in Turkey, and she then talks about her work in Turkey, and she actually was successful in some cases. So, again, they're the guys who help push, again, through Carter, and we'll talk about that in a future lecture, produce an Assistant Secretary for Human Rights, which doesn't solve much of anything, but produces yet another political agenda for engaging in this kind of politics. In some cases successful, in some cases not successful. So Human Rights Watch now is founded as an organization of all these watch organizations in 1988. And as you know, still exists and still produces probably the best and most expert reports. And in our mind, one of the things we're hoping to do is get students internships with this organization, because they really are amongst the very best in producing this knowledge of these, in producing knowledge of this. So we will come back to all of this. We're going to do dissident culture in Eastern Europe. We're going to do U.S. human rights politics, including Elliott Abrams in the 1960s and 70s. We're going to do particular immigrant issues. So what this lecture and the last one was meant to do, that was give you an introduction to this world that we're now going to explore in more detail for the rest of the course. But I want to do two things. I wanted to do, number one, on a personal level, I wanted to fill in through one life a small part of this new culture. And I want to suggest that the rest of the course will speak to some of the places where Jerry Leiber went, some of the causes she spoke to, some of the successes and some of the frustrations she enjoyed. My second point is a political point, that Sam Moyn, whom you might remember you read at the very beginning of the course, is right that there's a great expansion of human rights talk and activism in the 1970s. And I want to suggest to you, that I've said this before, that I think he's wrong that this movement sort of grows up as a new utopianism in the 1970s. I think it had its roots in this early development, and that I think it is and I think he's wrong that it's by nature utopian. What I want to say is that what I hope to suggest to you today, and it will come out later in the course, that the more thoughtful participants seem to reject politics, even if as they speak of humanitarianism and human rights as above the political fray. But they understand that human rights and humanitarianism will only be effective, will only work in the world through political engagement. So they want to say that human rights is not a political claim in the sense of liberal or not liberal or socialist or not socialist. They want to make a universal claim for it. So that's utopian. But they understand that one needs to engage in this That's not a clear sentence. I'm going to fix this conclusion, but I hope you get what I'm trying to say. Yes? Yes. No? I hope. I'll fix it. I did this in a hurry. Embarrassing. In the old days, you didn't have PowerPoint. You could just mumble your way through it. See you guys Tuesday. No, we'll see you when? Thursday. What are we talking about? See you Thursday.